Some women just aren't meant to be mothers. I can still hear that voice, soft yet cutting through the silence, reverberating off the walls of my dim hallway. I stand there, frozen, my hand clenched around the cold metal of the door frame, and feel my heart pounding like a frantic drum. It's been 2 long years of treatments and unanswered prayers, and that single sentence shatters the fragile hope I've clung to every single day. I can already sense the storm gathering, as if the words themselves are warning me that everything is about to crumble. I step cautiously toward the kitchen, every step heavy with doubt and sorrow, and my eyes catch a glimpse of the neglected pill organizer on the counter. Its empty slots stare back at me like silent accusations. That small, overlooked detail now carries the weight of every failed test and every whispered prayer. In the background, I catch the strange tone in Ryan's voice when he pleads, "Mom, please." His soft words carry an undercurrent of tension that speaks of a deeper conflict I can't quite put my finger on, a secret buried beneath the facade of our shared struggle. My mind races back to countless appointments and endless cycles of hope and despair. Each negative test was another tiny funeral for the dream of becoming a mother, a dream that now hangs by a thread. I can still feel the sting of every disappointment, each one a sharp reminder that my body was betraying me while the world moved on. And yet, there's another presence in our home that fills me with unease. Diana, my mother-in-law. Once, I believed her warm smile and constant help were genuine expressions of care. But as the days turn into months and her involvement grows ever more intrusive, I cannot shake the feeling that she is hiding something far more sinister. Every time she reminds me to take my pills, or offers to pick them up for me, I can't help but question her intentions. The way she lingers near the doorway during our most private moments, and the way her eyes glimmer with an unspoken secret, it all adds up to something darker than mere concern. Standing in that quiet hallway, I feel a mix of betrayal, loneliness, and a rising determination. I begin to wonder, with a chill running down my spine, if someone in my own home is intentionally sabotaging my chance to be a mother. I retreat into the guest room, my mind racing with questions and my heart heavy with doubt. Every breath I take reminds me of the long nights spent in silent agony and the relentless pursuit of a dream that seems to be slipping away. With trembling hands, I grip the edge of the bed, struggling to steady myself as the echoes of that devastating line continue to haunt me. Could it be that the person I once trusted most is the one standing in the shadows, turning my hopes into dust? Before I discovered the betrayal that would shatter my world, my life with Ryan had been painted with soft, hopeful memories that I cherished deeply. I still recall the day we met at the courthouse, when I was immersed in legal documents and Ryan approached me with a kind smile as he needed a small favor for a news case assignment. In that moment, as our eyes met and we exchanged numbers, I felt a spark, a silent promise of something beautiful to come. Over time, that simple connection blossomed into a tender romance. We spent long afternoons talking about our dreams and ambitions, our conversations flowing as naturally as the sunrise. Within only a few months, our friendship turned into an unspoken commitment, and soon we were inseparable. Our engagement came swiftly, within 6 months, and our wedding was a humble, heartfelt celebration held at Ryan's family home. Every detail of those early days was filled with hope, and each step we took together felt destined to lead to a happy, shared future. We planned for a family with excitement, choosing to delay parenthood until our careers and finances were steady enough to support our dreams. We were confident that, with the help of modern medicine, nature would eventually cooperate, and our hearts brimmed with anticipation for the little one we envisioned running joyfully through our home. Then, life introduced Diana into our carefully woven tapestry. After selling her own home, she moved in temporarily, and initially, her arrival felt like a blessing. Diana was warm and generous, treating us as if we were her own, and showering us with thoughtful gifts. She prepared elaborate dinners and, most importantly, eagerly offered to manage my strict medication schedule. I welcomed her help with gratitude, believing that her support was a sincere expression of love for her son. Every morning, I followed my routine meticulously, taking my fertility pills as prescribed. Diana would remind me of my appointments and even pick up my prescriptions when she could, and at first, I felt relieved by the extra care. Yet, as days turned into weeks, subtle oddities began to emerge. Some mornings I noticed that the pills looked just a little different, sometimes in color and sometimes in texture, than what I remembered. I would glance at them briefly and convince myself it was merely a minor oversight, a random glitch in a busy day. But in quiet moments, a small unease crept into my thoughts. I wondered if those differences were simply coincidences or something more deliberate. Despite my growing worry, I clung to the hope and excitement of a future filled with laughter and little footsteps echoing in our home. Even then, I trusted Diana wholeheartedly because she always seemed to act in the best interest of our family. However, a faint sense of doubt began to stir beneath the surface. As I faithfully followed my daily regimen and looked forward to the joy of motherhood, I could not completely shake the feeling that behind Diana's caring smile lay a hidden agenda. A quiet manipulation might be unfolding, and though I did not fully understand it at the time, the suspicion lingered like a shadow over my dreams. Without fully realizing what was happening, I clung to every whispered promise of a family, unaware that betrayal was being sown right under my nose. My heart, once light with hope, grew heavy with doubt. Every night, fear crept in, transforming trust into suspicion. I began to wonder if the support I embraced was merely a crafted guise hiding a hidden agenda. And I knew change was coming. Every morning, I wake with a faint hope that today might be different, that my dream of becoming a mother is finally taking shape. I reach into the pill organizer with sleepy determination, only to notice that the pills look glossier and slightly larger than I remembered. My heart skips a beat as I hold one up to the light, comparing its surface to the tablets I once trusted implicitly. With trembling fingers, I pull out my phone and quickly search for reference images of my prescribed medication. The images on the screen confirm my suspicion. These pills do not match the familiar ones I have been taking. A surge of anxiety courses through me as I stare at the discrepancy, a silent alarm triggering deep within my soul. Later that day, still shaken by my discovery, I decided to conduct a small experiment. In the privacy of my bathroom, I drop one of the suspect pills into a glass of water. I watch intently as it dissolves far more quickly than any pill should, vanishing as effortlessly as sugar dissolves in warm tea. The sight is both simple and profoundly unsettling, confirming that something is terribly wrong. My mind races with questions, and I cannot shake the feeling that what I am taking is nothing more than a harmless facade, a mere imitation of the treatment I was promised. In the following days, a disturbing pattern begins to emerge. I notice that whenever Diana steps out for a brief errand or to visit a friend, I experience a sudden, unexplained change in my body. For a fleeting moment, I feel a rush of warmth and a peculiar shift in my hormones, as if my body had been recalibrated. Then, as soon as she returns, that feeling fades away, leaving me with nothing but a lingering sense of doubt and a heart weighed down by unasked questions. Every time Diana steps out, for just a moment, I feel something shift inside me. Then she's back, and so are the doubts. Despite my desperate longing for a child, my heart becomes a battleground of conflicting emotions. A deep desire to nurture life battles against an overwhelming fear that something is amiss in my treatment. I catch myself wondering, am I imagining these changes, or is someone here secretly deciding my fate? Every glimpse of anomaly in the pills and every odd bodily reaction forces me to question the truth of what I have been taking. I am terrified of confronting the possibility that the medication, the very thing that holds the promise of turning my hopes into a family, might be a cruel imitation designed to keep me from realizing my dream. My doubts slowly crescendo into a state of restless determination. At a quiet family dinner, amidst clinking glasses and polite chatter, I noticed Diana casually suggesting alternatives to natural conception. With an almost innocent smile, she mentions that perhaps we should consider adoption, or even seeking a younger egg donor. Her words, delivered in an unsettlingly calm tone, cause a ripple of silence among us. I see Ryan's uneasy expression as he listens, his eyes darting between Diana and me, conveying a mix of confusion and concern. In that charged moment, my mind reels with the possibility that Diana's help is not driven solely by love, but by a hidden, manipulative agenda aimed at altering the course of my life. That night, in the quiet solitude of my room, I decided I cannot let these doubts fester any longer. I resolved to gather undeniable proof, evidence hidden among Diana's lies. With a surge of defiance, I murmur, I must uncover the truth, no matter what. My heart is set. I will expose the sabotage, even if it shatters everything I once believed in completely without any fear. I decided to call Dr. Reynolds at my local clinic one cool morning, my voice trembling as I explained that something about my medication didn't feel right. I mentioned that the pills I received looked different, glossier, almost larger, than the ones I remembered. I sent her the photos I had taken on my phone, images that clearly showed a discrepancy from the reference pictures I'd saved. As she studied the images, her eyes grew serious and she said, "Erica, these aren't the pills I prescribed. Something's not right." Her clear words resonated deep within me, confirming a suspicion I'd long tried to ignore. Without hesitation, Dr. Reynolds instructed me to get a new prescription, a fresh one that could only be picked up under my name at the pharmacy. Determined yet nervous, I stepped out into the brisk air on my discreet trip to the pharmacy, prescription clutched tightly in my hand. Every step felt weighted with apprehension, but I knew this was a necessary move to safeguard my treatment and, ultimately, my future. The realization that someone might be tampering with my medication ignited within me a fierce resolve. That very evening, when the house had quieted and Diana was preoccupied with a long phone call in the living room, I seized the moment. Moving silently like a shadow in the dark corridors of our home, I slipped out of my room with my heart pounding in my ears. I retraced my steps to the kitchen counter where I had last seen my pill organizer, its empty slots a stark reminder of my mounting loss. My intuition led me to a locked drawer in the guest room, somewhere I suspected the real prescription bottle might be hidden. With trembling hands, I fished out a spare key I had stashed away for emergencies. The drawer creaked open to reveal not the expected full container of medication, but an almost empty bottle that clearly couldn't support my treatment schedule. The sight made my stomach churn with dread and disbelief. I knew that if I was to confront this deception, I needed more than suspicions. I needed undeniable evidence. So, I began a covert documentation process. I set up a digital log on my phone, meticulously taking photos of the suspect pills, the sparse prescription bottle, and every detail of the disorganized medication area. I recorded the dates and times with precision, and each entry in my log added another piece of the puzzle that was rapidly forming. As I whispered to myself, I have to document every anomaly, every time I'm lied to, a determination set in that I could no longer allow this quiet sabotage to continue unchallenged. Driven by desperation and a thirst for truth, I ventured further into Diana's private domain. One night, while the rest of the house slept and the only sound was the distant hum of the refrigerator, I crept into her bedroom. My heart pounded as I carefully sifted through piles of neatly arranged magazines and personal items until, tucked away beneath them, I discovered a small leather-bound notebook, a diary that seemed forgotten. My fingers hesitated for only a moment before I flipped it open, revealing entries that hinted at a deliberate substitution of my medication with placebo pills. The entries, marked with dates and candid notations, disclosed that Diana had taken matters into her own hands on multiple occasions, all aimed at keeping me from achieving the family I so desperately wanted. Guilt warred with urgency as I photographed the damning diary pages, knowing that invading Diana's privacy cut deeply into my conscience. Yet, every word confirmed what I had feared all along. I gathered all of the evidence, the photos, my detailed log, and the incriminating diary pages, and locked them away into a secure folder on my computer. As I closed the file, I leaned back and whispered into the stillness of the night, "I will protect my future, no matter how deep this deception goes." In that hushed moment, as the weight of my discovery pressed upon me, I realized that my journey to uncover the truth had only just begun, and that every secret I exposed would lead me ever closer to a future I had long fought to secure. I collapsed onto the worn sofa after a long, draining day, feeling the weight of disappointment pressing on my chest. The house is silent, and in these quiet moments, my inner thoughts become a relentless echo of doubt. I wonder if the subtle differences I noticed in my pills are signs of sabotage, or simply the product of my anxious mind. The uncertainty gnaws at me, blurring the line between reality and my darkest fears. Earlier that evening, during a tense family dinner, Ryan's voice had broken the fragile calm. "Erica, I found this in your bag. Are you sure it's not yours?" he asked hesitantly, holding out a small birth control packet. I remember the way my heart hammered as I stammered, "I swear, I've never seen it before." His words, spoken in a low tone, left a cold silence hanging between us, a silence that now seems to echo every time I question what is real. Sitting here in solitude, I recall the tender days when Ryan and I dreamed of a future brimming with laughter and little footsteps. Back then, our plans were filled with hope and excitement, the promise of a family so vivid that every shared glance was a pledge of a beautiful tomorrow. Today, however, that dream feels tarnished. Each failed test and every endless cycle of treatments leaves a bruise on my heart, a mark of the sacrifice I have made. I question whether I am the one at fault, if perhaps my body has betrayed me rather than the world conspiring against me. My thoughts drift to the diary pages I secretly photographed, the intimate confessions penned by Diana. Every word seems to cut deeper with each remembrance. Each line in that diary made me feel more like a pawn in a cruel game, I whisper in the darkness of my mind. Her carefully written entries reveal a calculated effort to interfere with my treatment, a manipulation so subtle that it nearly went unnoticed until now. The realization of her betrayal shocks me to the core and fills me with a fierce, burning anger. I trusted Diana to be there for us, to support our dreams. Instead, her actions have left a festering wound where hope once flourished. Ryan's growing distance only intensifies my inner agony. In the quiet moments when he avoids meeting my eyes or offers only curt responses, I sense an invisible wall between us. His silence speaks volumes, a silent retreat from the warmth we once shared. I watch him, feeling the sting of loneliness and the creeping fear that our marriage is slowly crumbling under the weight of unspoken accusations and hidden deceptions. I remember the long, painful months of invasive procedures and relentless disappointments. Every failed test reverberates like a strike against my spirit. The cost of chasing our dream has been more than I ever imagined, and now each day leaves me wondering if the price was simply too high. In the stillness of that lonely night, surrounded by the echoes of lost promises, a steely resolve begins to form. I know that allowing these betrayals to define me would mean surrendering not only my dream of motherhood, but also the love Ryan once had for me. I cannot stand idly by while every secret undermines the future I so desperately want to build. With determination hardening my voice, I whisper into the darkness, I have to fight back. I can't let this betrayal define me. Even as fear coils in my stomach, a spark of hope ignites within me, a promise that the truth, once fully exposed, will light the way to the future I deserve. The living room was bathed in soft, ambient light and filled with a mix of anxious smiles and carefully arranged chairs as family members gathered for what Diana had called an intervention for Ryan's well-being. I arrived silently, heart pounding as I surveyed the scene, relatives murmuring in hushed tones, eyes shifting with unease, and an undercurrent of tension that no one seemed willing to acknowledge. Diana stood at the center, her voice smooth and confident as she addressed the group. I'm here because I'm worried about what's best for Ryan. Her tone, though gentle, carried a weight that made every listener lean in a little closer, even as the polite smiles masked the rising discomfort in the room. Ryan sat beside her, his face a constant, conflicted battle of emotions, confusion, hurt, and doubt etched into every line. As Diana continued her carefully rehearsed speech, I remained silent, my eyes scanning the room for any sign that the truth could suddenly shatter the facade. Each minute seemed to stretch, charged with anticipation and the silent hope that my secret evidence would soon turn the tide. I could feel every pair of eyes on me as I pressed down on the turmoil building inside. My hand, steady yet determined, slid discreetly into the depths of my purse. I withdrew a plain white envelope, its surface unadorned, but heavy with undeniable proof. With deliberate slowness, I placed the envelope on the coffee table, its presence demanding attention amid the carefully constructed calm. The room stilled completely as the envelope landed, a quiet punctuation to the pretense that had filled the evening. I could see the shock beginning to ripple across the faces of those gathered, and Ryan's eyes searched mine for an explanation he couldn't yet comprehend. In that charged silence, I spoke, my voice clear and resolute despite the tide of emotion threatening to spill over. "Before any more lies are told, I'd like you all to see the truth," I said, my words resounding in the hush that followed. I paused, glancing around the room so that every person could feel the gravity of what was about to unfold. My fingers trembled slightly as I opened the envelope and began to pass my phone around so that everyone could see the evidence that I had painstakingly gathered over months of quiet investigation. The screen displayed a series of photos, close-ups of pills that were not the ones I'd been taking, each image capturing subtle differences in color and texture, snapshots of a nearly empty prescription bottle hidden away in a locked drawer, and, most damning of all, pages from a leather-bound diary filled with Diana's own handwriting. Each entry in that diary chronicled moments when, with cold efficiency, she had replaced my real medication with sugar pills, writing dates and details with an unsettling detachment. For nearly 2 years, Diana has been replacing my real medication with sugar pills, I declared softly, my voice quavering with a mixture of grief and determination. I trusted her help, and she betrayed that trust. A wave of disbelief rippled through the room as gasps and murmurs grew louder. Some relatives leaned forward, their expressions a blend of shock and sorrow, while others exchanged dismayed glances. Ryan's face, once a mask of polite confusion, now shifted into one of raw, heartbreaking realization. His eyes filled with tears as he stared at the evidence, struggling to reconcile the loving partner he thought he knew with the grim reality unfolding before him. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Diana's confident smile faltered, and for the first time that night, I saw vulnerability in her eyes, the mask of concern slipping to reveal something far less reassuring. It was as if every carefully constructed lie was crumbling, leaving only truth in its wake. Unable to contain the eruption of emotion any longer, Ryan's voice broke through the silence, with a mix of anger and despair. "How could you do this? How could you take away my chance at a real family?" he demanded, his tone thick with both sorrow and betrayal. I looked into his eyes that once shone with unwavering love, and replied with quiet conviction, "I deserve to have a chance. I fought every day for this dream, and I won't let deception steal it away." The impact was palpable. Slowly, the air in the room shifted as each family member absorbed the harsh truth that had long been hidden beneath layers of lies. I passed my phone from hand to hand, each image dismantling the carefully built facade that Diana had maintained over the years. Every photo, every note chipped away at the deceit, leaving behind nothing but raw, undeniable evidence. As I observed the room, a heavy, almost unbearable silence settled over everyone, filled with the weight of betrayal and the bitter taste of shattered trust. In that dramatic, charged moment, Ryan's eyes locked onto mine once more, and in the unspoken depth of his gaze, I could sense the question that hung in the air like a fragile promise. Is this really happening? The truth had been exposed, and nothing would ever be the same again. After the explosive revelation, chaos broke out in an instant. The family gathering disintegrated into a flurry of hushed whispers, shocked glares, and abrupt departures. Guests who had once sat comfortably now rose from their chairs, their expressions frozen in disbelief as they gathered their coats and left the room. A heavy silence descended over those who remained, the unspoken truth hanging in the air like a dark cloud that refused to dissipate. In a quiet corner away from the judgmental eyes of the others, Ryan reached for my hand. His voice, raw and trembling with regret, broke the stillness. "I'm so sorry. I should have seen it before." His words, simple yet profound, betrayed the depth of his shock and remorse. I could see in his eyes the confusion of a man struggling to reconcile the loving partner he believed he knew with the betrayal that had just unfolded before us. His sorrow was palpable, and it cut deeper than any accusation could have. Meanwhile, Diana appeared to shrink under the weight of the truth. Once the orchestrator of every calculated move, she now moved with urgency, hastily gathering her belongings. Her face was a blend of fury and regret as the family, once charmed by her facade, began to reject her influence. Their murmurs grew louder, a crescendo of disapproval that marked her isolation within our home. The once comforting presence she had been was now reduced to a shadow of deceit and manipulation. Inside, I was torn between relief and devastation. Every fiber of my being vibrated with a mix of liberation for having uncovered the truth and sorrow for the years stolen by lies. I felt the heavy burden of every failed test, every unkept promise weighing on me. "It hurts beyond words, but I finally know the truth," I admitted to myself amid the clamor of falling facades. The emotional storm churned inside me as I realized that, although the night was filled with anguish, it also marked the start of a new chapter. In this raw moment of aftermath, I caught gentle, reassuring glances from a few relatives whose support rekindled a spark of hope. Their quiet sympathy hinted that maybe change was possible. As I held Ryan's hand tightly, we both understood that while everything we knew was shattering, this collapse could pave the way for rebuilding a life founded on truth and trust. I wake up to a quiet home that feels both unfamiliar and reassuringly new. In the weeks since the confrontation, I have watched as every corner of my space has been slowly transformed. The kitchen, once filled with painful reminders, is now neat and illuminated by soft morning light. The living room exudes calm where chaos once reigned. I find solace sitting by the window, watching as memories of the past blend into visions of a hopeful future, each detail marking a small victory over former turmoil. Ryan and I have rebuilt our lives step by step. We attend counseling sessions together, sharing honest words as we mend the cracks in our trust. "We'll rebuild our trust, step by step," Ryan says, his gentle smile warming my heart. In our sessions, painful memories are acknowledged, and our conversations grow from quiet understanding into determined plans for a better tomorrow. The efforts we make are tender and real, and slowly the silence that once divided us is replaced with empathy and renewed commitment. At work, I have taken charge of my destiny. I spearheaded changes at my firm to support employees facing challenges similar to mine, turning a personal betrayal into a drive for collective betterment. I keep a digital journal of my journey, capturing every lesson learned with a mix of regret and hope. My struggles have forged within me a resilient spirit, reminding me that even the darkest moments hold the promise of new beginnings. A recent follow-up appointment with Dr. Reynolds filled me with cautious optimism. As she reviewed my test results, she smiled and said, "Erica, your treatment is showing promising progress." In that moment, as relief flooded through me, I felt that I was finally moving forward after everything. Her reassurance was a light piercing through years of uncertainty, and I whispered, "After all this, I'm finally moving forward." Evenings now bring quiet reflection rather than dread. I sit by the window on rainy nights, holding an ultrasound photo close to my heart. The gentle patter of rain on the glass soothes the remnants of fear and anger. That small image, a glimpse of new life, reminds me of days when isolation and betrayal were all I knew. Now, each beat of my heart affirms that transformation is real and unfolding, and the future is bright. Reflecting on my journey, I realize that every battle has reshaped me. I no longer stand as a victim, but as someone who has reclaimed her future with unwavering determination. I share my story in hopes that others may find strength in their darkest hours. I learned that the hardest battles often transform us for the better. I fought, I cried, and I have now reclaimed my future with courage and grace. Every ending, I now believe, brings with it a new beginning. No betrayal can dim the light of hope, for hope burns eternally within us. Though the road ahead may still hold pain, every step forward feels like a hard-won victory. In every tender smile from Ryan, every encouraging word from a colleague, and every small miracle captured in a photograph, I see the promise of what is yet to come. My new beginning has arrived, and I am ready to embrace it fully, with open arms and a resilient heart. I am aware that challenges still lie ahead, but I choose to remember the strength forged in the fires of deception. I will carry these lessons as I step into tomorrow, knowing that every ending paves the way for a fresh start. I want you to know that even in the depths of despair, hope is never lost. It lies waiting to guide us forward. I stand here today, reborn from my struggles, and I can say with certainty, I reclaimed my future. No betrayal can extinguish hope, and every ending brings a new beginning. And hope endures forever.